It is 93.3 WMMR, and we have the great pleasure at this moment of the company of the son of the singer who brought this band to prominence, although he did not live to see their success. That would be Bradley Nowell, but his amazing son, Jakob, is here with us, and Sublime has carried on. They started back up last year, and Jakob, great to welcome you to MMR. Nice to see you.
Hey, thanks, Pierre. What's up, guys? How's it going, everybody? This is
It looks
Jacob.
like you're in an automobile. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, it's basically where I live these days. It turns out rock and roll doesn't pay at all. Kidding.
Well, it's great to see you. I think a case could be made that music is in your DNA, quite obviously, and in your bloodstream. And I'm wondering if you recall, if you can even cite a moment in your young life, I think you're 30, when you realized what music was. Was there a song or a sound or a riff or, what item, if anything, that comes to your mind told you that there was this entity, if you will, called music?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, it goes back all the way to infancy, right? Especially if you grow up with parents that are very, just musical and music fans themselves, like my mother was and still is. So she was always playing music growing up, from crib, from cradle, far, it was always a big part of my life. Just there, kind of present. But I think the very first time I had like a personal, profound experience with music was when I was man, when did that album come out? It was probably 1999, if that's when Demon Days came out. But it was Gorillaz Feel Good Inc.
Huh.
I remember that song. It just through totally like innocent ears, however old I was, 4 or 5, 6. Very profound experience to me, and I still love that song to this day.
That's so cool. Music takes us. It's such a powerful force.
Is
And if you have not heard a song in a while, for example, people will hear a song that we play on MMR or whatever, and it takes them right back to that time, to who you were hanging with, how you were feeling. I'm wondering if there are songs like that in your life in the past and what you're listening to even right now, for
Oh,
example.
no, that's great. Yeah, when I hop into the car and I start driving, like the temperature outside and how much light is shining down and all these things factor into like, okay, I need the perfect song or the perfect arrangement of songs or the perfect record that's going to match this feeling of this drive I'm going to go on it. I'm very particular about that kind of stuff. And and I know a lot of people with Sublime's music talk about being teleported back in time, right? It's they remember it was such a soundtrack to. Reason why I'm in my car right now is because I'm about to go hit the gym. But before that, I went to our local eatery here in Long Beach, which is Chuck's Coffee Shop. They did not pay me to.
Nice.
I've just been eating there since I was a baby. Go check
I'm
out
a
Chuck's.
coffee fiend myself.
Yeah, and it's a local coffee shop eatery, and I just bump into some locals there, and they're always telling me stories about what it was like back then. And so, really, when we were working on this new record, exactly what you're talking about is what was factoring into our heads the whole time. Is like, okay, what sounds cue people's ears and brains into being sort of taken back, or what are these little totally imperceptible things that all these small parts that lead up to a greater whole. So that's kind of the goal with all the new stuff we've been working on with Sublime, is try to just harkening back to that amazing era. I think there's so much amazing music happening then, and now musicians, since things are cyclical, there's a lot of young musicians that are inspired by 90s music and early 2000s music. And so it's a really exciting time for music in general now. It's not just nostalgia, it's moving forward.
Well, I think a great example of that is the new song Ensenada from
Yeah.
Sublime. And it's got that feel of the Sublime sound, and yet it's got this different take, including there's a part where early on there's a guitar part, and I don't know if that's you on guitar or not, on the lead guitar, but it really takes you somewhere, and you can feel the sublime effect, and yet it's a new song bringing all that a new song brings. I love it.
Oh yeah, thank you so much, man. Yeah, that's my guitar player Zano playing that part, and I think
Cool.
our guitarist, our other guitar player Trey too is in there. And like
Tell us about the song.
yeah, it was so much fun to make it. A lot of this record, is just stuff that was unearthed, unreleased Sublime material from back in the day, which owes to its authenticity. But those are really jumping off points that we eventually, transformed into their own songs with their own identities. But all throughout, you have this. At first, it was very difficult for me to work with the material. Like, there's some songs where my dad's vocals are involved, like in "Feel Like That," the single that we released, I think, last year, and it's really challenging because it's very emotional. It's really hard to learn a lot of the material, anyways, because it's hard to separate myself from it. It's the only one of the only proofs that I have of him, one of these only surviving artifacts that that my sire left, and it's listening to any Sublime song is a real challenging, tear-jerking experience for me ever since I was a little kid. So then the ask is, okay, learn the entire catalog and do it. So the only way I'm going to get through that tear-free is you kind of got to separate yourself, but that requires you to sever some relationship you had with the music in a lot of ways too. So it's very challenging. Sorry, I didn't mean to go that deep with all that.
Oh, it's good.
We're not curing cancer here. I'm not unique or whatever. Like, we're writing rock and roll music, but at
You
the end
have
of
a
the day,
really unique story, and that does count.
yeah, totally. And
Because doing what you're doing, stepping into this role, so it's kind of surprising to me. I thought Ensenada was a brand new song from the ground up, for example. But are you saying that basic track was lying around, or are these cases where the music is there and you're writing new lyrics, or?
I would say more we hear old jams that they did in the studio, and
Hmm.
we all start jamming them together, and then they transform into something different. I think it's more like the seed is the same, but the plant that grew out was kind of different. They are their own original new songs for sure, but we wanted to make sure that they had this, authenticity to it, that they had these certain signifiers that would hopefully, if we doing our jobs right, trigger people's ears to be like, oh, this is kind of bringing me right back to. And so far the response has confirmed that we're on the right track, at least with this first one. So that makes me really excited, and I bring all that up to say that, going through a lot of this, obviously Bud and Eric are involved, and writing and jamming and stuff. But there was a lot of it that's me and my producer John Joseph and my guitar player and friend Zane Vandevoort, and we just wanted to be respectful and do it justice. I think it's easy to try to be like, oh, well, we should change this or change that. It's like we are just humble servants, just trying to make something cool that will maybe feel celebratory towards the sound. Uh, we don't want to eclipse, or we don't think it'd be possible for us to do better than what Sublime did in their era, but we don't think it's too late for celebration of that era and for a whole new generation to discover the music and have some songs of their own that they feel like that they were there in the time and the moment that they got to be a part of. Because if you come to a Sublime show, you'll see that it's all ages, man. It is crazy, man. It's so multi-generational. It's definitely youth culture music, and that's stood the test of time so far.
We're speaking with Jakob Nowell here on WMMR in this Zoom call and phone in or conversation, actually. And with that in mind, I want to go back to your own early history because I was wondering at what point you decided that you wanted to be a musician. You had, as we said earlier, the music in your bloodstream. You have always listened to music. Your mom was influential in that. But what caused you to want to be a musician, and where did you start? Did you do an instrument? Did you just start singing around the house? What might it have been that got you on the path where you go, I want to be a musician when I grow up?
Yeah. My path is sort of unusual, I guess. I mean, at first when I was really little, it was kind of off the table because, I mean, if you think about from the perspective of my grandparents, my father's, parents, they really were there in a big parental role my entire life to this day. And you lose one kid to rock and roll, they're like, the hell you're gonna play music. They're not pearl clutching like religious fanatics or whatever. They love music. My grandpa's a big fan of like Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and stuff like that, so he gets it. But it was a harrowing experience for the family, so they weren't quite thrilled at the prospect of me learning that. And from a young age, I was more interested in literature and writing and that sort of stuff, and illustrating and drawing and that kind of thing. But I think I always had it in me where I would always come up with songs since I was little. You've seen many little young kids where they make up little tunes and they're humming and they come up with these ideas. That was always in there. But as far as like the call to be like, I want to pursue this, I was probably 13 years old, and I had smoked weed for the first time and watched Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. So I owe it all to Kyle Gass and Jack Black, because
Wow.
dudes made it look so cool and fun. And I know that most of it's comedic and like a joke or whatever. So sometimes I do got to be careful because I don't want to write like cringy lyrics or whatever. But but to me, it's like it almost told me that you don't have to take yourself too seriously. It can be this big epic grand quest, but at the same time, it's like it's fun, man. We're here doing this for fun, and it is part of this such a long spanning tradition. Um, right from meeting the devil and the crossroads to whatever rock and roll sounds like today. So I think that all that stuff just felt like, oh man, I could be carrying on in this. It's how special that I get to be a part of this long standing thing, and I guess here we are today. That's brought me this far.
Well, you started some of your history. For example, you had a ska punk band called Law. I think you started around 2013, and then you went on to go with Jacob's Castle, and you had a debut record with that group. And you did a little work with a progressive metal band called Death of the Author.
Oh
So
wow, you know that too? Yeah, you did
yeah.
your
Well, I mean, you've had your own musical history, and because
sure. I've been
I
in a
say that because that builds into what you have stepped into. So you bring the music you grew up with, and then the music you made in these groups, and then that is part of your foundation to go into this new role with Sublime.
No, it's true, man. Yeah, Law. We started. I mean, at first I was like, I think as soon as I could even remotely play guitar and sing, mind you, definitely not to the. I'm good at different things than my father was good at. We're just simply two different entertainers, two different people. So as much as people might want me to be like his spit to every degree, it's just not going to be possible because we're just two different human beings. But so in the beginning, it was like, okay, well, people from the get go, people want to be like, why don't you join Sublime? Why don't you do this? And it never seemed right. I think I'm barely even passing right now to be able to do the songs justice and put on that show for those people. So for the first 12 years of my career, it wasn't so much like, I need to be my own person and stand on my own. Like there's an element of that to every musician, I think, but it was more like I just have to grow up and learn and live life and figure out how things are. So yeah, the first band Law was at first we were very ska punk because that's just what came naturally to me growing up listening to what I basically listened to all the same stuff my dad and his friends listened to, courtesy of my mother. But then hanging out with those bandmates, we were really the stuff that really inspired us turned out to be like Queens of the Stone Age, Tool. There was even a little bit Red Hot Chili Peppers, but like in the heavier stuff, there was a Soundgarden where they were listening to a lot, and Alice in Chains. And so Law eventually started to shift into some more of that kind of stuff. I think a little bit more grungier and a little bit heavier. And then when that band dissolved, yeah, for a while, that some of my friends had this project. And shout out Death of the Author, go check them out. And they're this really good, prog metal band, which was so challenging for me. That was a great lesson in like singing in different time signatures and indulging myself in all the cringy lyrics that I love because that's part of like the scene. Not to disparage that, but it's like you can write kind of fun, ridiculous like purple prose, like overly indulgent lyrics and stuff. And then I had my fill of that. And then when I wanted to start my solo project, I was like, okay, I want something that's like honestly a little bit more simple and like pop oriented, not pop in the sense of like the big pop names over the years, but something that was like interesting alternative pop that was like very easy to access, but maybe had some more deeper things in it and stuff. Still a little funny and goofy, but at the same time like just experimenting with all sorts of crazy sounds that I consider underground and like how can we make these palatable while still sort of being adjacent to West Coast sound, alternative beach music kind of vibe. And through doing that, eventually, natural forces elected that I should be maybe singing for Sublime for a while. So I take it as a gig. I don't see myself as like the lead singer of Sublime, even though it's easier to say in shorthand. But I get to be up there and portray the material with the original bandmates and involve some of my friends in the process of it, and use that to you know bring up the name of my record label, Sunburnt Records, so we can shed some light on some of the other amazing artists, these young artists in Southern California that have been inspired by that epic sound from the 90s, like Sublime was doing. So that's kind of where I'm at nowadays. We do the Sublime shows. We focus on trying to put on smaller shows for our other label artists. And I'm still working on Jacob's Castle and shaping and trying to figure out what that sound's going to be like moving forward. It's probably going to change a lot.
Can you tell us what steps transpired that allowed this reunion to take place? Had you stayed in touch with Eric and Bud over the years as you were growing up? Did you see them much? Because there was a point when Sublime with Rome came along. I think that was about 2009. And Eric stayed with that at one point. Bud was there for a little bit. Then he left. And Sublime with Rome seemed like it was carrying on the vibe of Sublime, doing those songs and making some new ones. And then it was announced that Rome would be leaving in 2024. And I was very pleasantly surprised. We knew Rome, and he was a lovely guy. But I was very pleasantly surprised when I learned that you were going to step into that role.
Thank you.
What events happened to make that happen? Tell us the backstory of it, if you could.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it is sort of an interesting story. I mean, yeah, for a while they were doing their thing, and I think with the music they put out, they started to push the sound in sort of a modern direction, the kind of Cali reggae, or some people say white boy reggae. They sort of became that while still playing, the original material, and it was awesome for people to go out and get to see that. And I think Rome is a far better guitar player than me, and just such a capable singer. He's able to really do that really well, and that's just not the tradition. I grew up singing in metal bands and doing these like doing all this insane vibrato trill stuff. So I was kind of like, you want me to sing for somebody? Like for me, thinking subjectively, I was like, well, I don't think I do it very good, but objectively for people, it's cool because obviously I'm the guy's kid, so it would be fun for people to see that. But there's definitely not any animosity. I was never really a fan of that iteration or that era.
Did you ever see them? Did you see Sublime with Rome in concert ever?
Oh yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. I think my original project, I think, played with them once or twice.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe we just went to the show, or so I can't really remember. I was so young at the time, but and what ended up happening, I mean, there's all sorts of strange, weird drama and stuff that I'd rather not speak on, because no matter what I say, it's not going to sound good. I will say this: it's okay for people not to like each other, and for people to have disagreements and to have two different versions of events. All I know is that Sublime, without my father around, is not Sublime no matter what. Even what we're doing right now, the only reason that it could ever be close is if you have Bud and Eric up there, or Eric and Marshall Goodman, or the guys from the Long Beach Dub All Stars, like Trey, who we have playing right now, like on guitar. Like, I think that's what the spirit of Sublime has to be intact, and I think that's what Bud and Eric wanted. Is for the music for it to go back to it being like, hey, this is alternative, cool music. It's a punk rock band that does involve reggae elements. Like, it's clearly a big part of it, but it's so much more than that. And so I think our song "Feel Like That" was almost like a farewell to the white boy reggae scene, like passing it over to Stick Figure, like he's carrying on that. And that sound of music is awesome to all the people who love that stuff. That's great. But I think that was sort of an offshoot and a derivative from bands like Sublime. I don't think it was, and Slightly Stupid, of course. Like, I don't think it was ever really the end goal, or where Sublime would have kept going had they continued with my father. So with that in mind, when we went to make this new song and this new record, it was like, okay, how do we, really go back to our influences?
But did they approach you and say, would you do this? I mean, the actual connection where they said, where a group decision was made, Rome is now left, Bud is coming back into the mix, and Bud and Eric and now Jacob will carry on as Sublime. The backstory of it, is it that they approached you and asked you to do it, or did you go to them, or did some other third party suggest it?
Well, again, everybody has their own different version of events, but from what I understood and what I was told, Rome no longer wanted to play with Eric, but he did doing Sublime with Rome, which a lot of people seem to think that like Eric just left and then we reformed Sublime and then Rome didn't hear about it. We kicked him to the curb. That's not what happened in our camp. None of us had that experience. But if that's how he feels it happened, then, that sucks. That probably was really, really a bummer. But in our camp, what had happened was Eric was like, I don't, he doesn't want me to do this anymore, but I still want to do Sublime, and I miss playing with Bud. And there was this HR benefit coming up, and seeing as that he wasn't doing stuff with Sublime With Rome anymore, but they kept going on, he got Bud together, and him and Bud were like, hey, why don't you come sing some Sublime songs for this benefit show for HR from Bad Brains? And we had so much fun doing it. We were like, should we keep going? And Eric's new manager at the time was Joe Escalante from the Vandals, and he's really good friends with Paul Tillett from Coachella. And Paul, is a big fan of that era of ska punk, and he's like, dude, I'd love to have that like original Sublime sound up there. What if we got you guys doing it with the guy's son, i.e. me, singing the songs? And it was sort of a crazy ask, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it, but I just kind of, I turned off my brain and, let my feet do the walking, and my brain followed. And all of a sudden we were up there 2 weekends in a row playing. And then it seemed like, yeah, let's keep booking shows. And we had so much fun jamming together in the studio. We were like, let's keep doing that and write new songs. So that was the natural progression in my eyes.
I've got to ask you, the very first time, obviously you'd gotten together and rehearsed, but the very first time, I don't know if it was the benefit in December that you were talking about, or if it was the Coachella shows, but the very first time you walked on with them as Sublime, what is going through your head? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Obviously, the audience is embracing you. It had to have been a very warm reception, but
it was.
What's going through your head? What are you thinking? What's going on?
Oh, dude, even you can't see it for the listeners. I get goosebumps even thinking about it. It was terrifying, if I'm being honest. And I'm not the type to get stage fright. I love entertaining and being on stage and being a ham. I'm a total ham. I love talking. But this was not like anything I'd ever had happen to me before or after. It was just, there's so much pressure leading up to it. For obvious reasons I don't even need to say, but I guess I will, like, here's my first example of me portraying the material. And for a lot of people, it will be the last. They'll hear it and swiftly decide that I'm not up to snuff and then discard me. I mean, that's maybe 1% of people. The other 99 are going to be like loving it just by virtue that I'm the guy's son, which is almost worse because it's like, right. No, I want to do good. And right. Nowadays, I think after a year of practice and rehearsal and playing shows, I feel pretty confident with the material. I feel like I can do it justice and have fun up there and turn my brain off and have a good time. But I wish we could play Coachella right now and we would put on such a rad show. But at the time, it was just so much nerve. I think we did a good job. We put on the show. It was awesome. But nowadays, when we play a show, it's just so loose and fun and we jam in between. I went up there like completely like just, congested with purpose. Fear. I don't know. Right before
anxiety, fear.
I was so out of my head. Like I just kept repeating the mantra of Guru Lahima, like, be empty, go into the void empty and become wind. And I was just like, go into the void empty and become wind. And I was just like, I barely remember. I just see this sea of people, and we've played for probably bigger crowds since then, or at least the same size. But it was overwhelming, and we pushed through it. And I was.
Was there a point? Was there a point where it transformed for you during that first show, where you go, okay, oh, I got it, I can do this?
I wish truth be told, no. I maybe I could have crafted a cooler story to tell to press and media.
Right.
Rather just
the
be honest.
Truth is best.
I remember I looked at the clock at one point. I think we still had 35 minutes left on the stage clock. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And then until that makes you come up and do it a week later. It's like walking to the gallows and getting your head chopped off a second time. Like, and the second time was about the same thing, pretty much. I was not that much more comfortable because now I know how bad it feels up there. And again, I don't want to say it's bad, but like it should be every musician's dream to play there and do that thing. But I think for a lot of it, but then you get stuck in this weird thought loop because for a lot of musicians, they're like, well, I want to go up and portray my abilities and my sound and my ability to perform and the things I've written. But then you're like, well, is that selfish of me to want that when, I'm here by virtue of my father to begin with? So, okay, then I have to do a good job and do it. It's like, well, but we've only had about a month to rehearse and prepare, which we did constantly. It's not like we, for lack of trying, but his unique vocal style and inflections are something that it's taken me time to learn how to do that. Like, I'm a very capable singer, and I was at the time too. I'm not. This is not false humility, like fishing for compliments at all. If you told me to go up there and sing Tool songs, I think I could have done a great job, or System of a Down songs or something. Like, that's in my wheelhouse. But Bradley Nowell is very bluesy, very improvisational, very feel oriented. It's just it's been a new thing to have to learn, and now I think I'm much more closer to that margin. I mean, when people hear this record, I think I'm hoping it'll speak for itself. Or if you came out to a show now or watch some of our most recent performances, I'm not saying it's so clean you could eat off it. If you're comparing anything to studio recordings, good luck with any band. But you look back on some of those old Sublime performances, like I have, like that's what I use to study to figure out how to portray and be good in this gig and be a good entertainer. And I think we're putting on and we're doing justice to Sublime. I believe that.
Well, one of our staff members, Marissa from our morning show, saw you at the X Games out in Salt Lake City recently, just in the last couple of weeks. And she came back, and we've just started playing the new song, Ensenada. She came back raving about you. I said, well, what made it special? And she goes, everything about it was perfect. But what Jakob brought to it was this great energy. There were the songs that you knew, but he brought his own take on it. And he also had all these positive messages, which we'll get to in a moment. But she loved the way you presented it. Clearly, it was that music, but with your signature, if you will, on it, not taking anything away from your father, but you've got to do it your way. And she brought up another interesting point, which I would raise with you. You talked about your young bands, Jacob's Castle, or more recently in Law in the beginning. When you're a baby band, and you're trying to get noticed, you're trying to get a crowd. And if you get even a small crowd in a club, you walk out on stage and they mostly don't know your music unless they're uber fans of your small group. In your particular case, what's one of many unique factors is that you're walking on stage and it's new to you, but yet everybody knows every song. And
Yes,
that adds a whole different perspective to it, I would guess, right?
that's so astute. Yeah, I've thought about that many times. It's almost like our roles become inverted. um, I'm so used to playing shows where you're the opener on, a tour or whatever, and you're just desperately trying to sell yourself to these people and get them to sing along and get them to interact. And then when you do and you win them over, it's such a great, wonderful, accomplishment. But for these songs, yeah, it's almost like the reverse. Like, I'm trying to like win myself over and be like, okay, did I do that part accurate enough? Like, and my own style is going to bleed through no matter what. But I really am trying to, uh, I'm not going to ever be a carbon copy. We're just simply two different people. It's just how it's going to be with any new singer to an established project. It happens all the time. I mean, look at, Alice in Chains, or more recently, what was it? Linkin Park or whatever. It's
Or
just
Queen with Adam
Queen,
Lambert. I mean,
or
all
Queen.
these bands that carry on with other singers, they're not trying to negate or replace the singer that was there originally. They're
Exactly.
going, that singer is no longer available. We can't do anything about that. And yet, we want to keep this music alive. So, how do we do that? We bring in another singer who knows and loves that material and can bring his or her voice to it, and yet honor the original stuff, but make it your own. And I think you're proving that in these shows, certainly in these two new songs, Feel Like That and Sonata. We're hearing that.
Thank,
And I think that's a great achievement that you should be very proud of.
thank you. I mean, really well said, man. I haven't been able to articulate it like that before. That's really good point, man. And I truly believe that is our intention here, and that's what we're trying to do. I love these songs. I grew up on these songs through my parents, even though I didn't grow up playing and singing them. I grew up hearing them just like you guys all did, and I love them just like you guys all do. And I love them for even more, for my own personal reasons. They make me feel close to a lost loved one. So beyond all the pomp and circumstance and all the fandoms or gatekeeping or not gatekeeping or the songs mean this or that, it really is just the way I connect with my father and the way that I connect with his friends who are our family. And when we're up there doing it right, you can tell that we will lose ourselves and disappear for a little bit. And You know, when Bud does those hits in the second refrain of our song Greatest Hits, of their song Greatest Hit, it feels, I it's indescribable. And those are the moments when that I wish happened at that Coachella performance, and maybe didn't. I didn't notice it at first, but they happen now whenever we play, and they're gonna happen tomorrow when we play at Warp Tour, and it's such a good feeling up there. And I do see it on the faces of everybody who comes to these shows, man. It's multi-generational. You have people of all, truly of all ages there.
It's 93.3 WMMR. We're speaking, if you're just joining us, with Jakob Nowell, who is now carrying on in his father's role, but adding his own voice to the music of Sublime. I wanted to ask you because your father obviously faced serious addiction problems and is no longer with us as a result of that. You yourself had that happen. I read that you started drinking at the age of 12 and had a full-blown addiction to alcoholism within a fairly short period of time. And one quote, I don't know if it's accurate, was that you said, quote, "It was a subconscious desire on my part to kind of understand what my dad's experiences were." I don't know that you went seeking alcohol just to try to get to the plateau that he was at, but is that an accurate quote, first of all? And secondly of all, what's your perspective on carrying on sober?
Yeah, that quote remains accurate to me. I think that it's sort of one of those ancient stories that you always hear, like, you know, the father's not there anymore. Well, like, what was their experience? You know, why it was sort of like,
But most people would seek to find their father's experience if he was a basketball player to go play
yeah,
basketball, or if he was a mechanic to be a mechanic, or if he was an engineer to become an engineer. But most people wouldn't say, "Well, my father was a drug addict, therefore I want to become a drug addict to follow in his footsteps." So again, it's a different perspective.
yeah, it wasn't so much. I mean, kind of, it sounds sort of morbid, but yeah, there's this idea that, well, if he would choose this over his family, then let's see what the fuss is all about.
No, that's very interesting the way you put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wondering how it is to carry on in an industry where drugs and alcohol are rampant, and members of the band have had challenges with that, and carry on. But and you've got some songs that even though it's a cover, like "Smoke Two Joints." I don't know if you've even sung that since you've been in the band,
Oh, we
but I
do.
mean,
We do.
it's a great song.
It
But
is.
I'm assuming you still are sober.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What is it like then to carry on in an industry that's not known for sobriety?
I mean, I would say it'd be more challenging if I start. That's why it's so cool how you can feel sometimes like everything happens for a reason or falls into place just at the right time. Sometimes, you know, because if I had jumped into this role when I was sober for less than a year or 2 years or 3 years, I probably would have been relapsed by now because the challenges are much more. I don't know if they're more challenging in the beginning, but everything feels more intense when you're newly sober. Everything feels like the end of the world. So now it's not like this temptation feeling when I'm out there. It's definitely it's fun, man. It's all part of the identity. Like I have an identity now is like I'm the sober guy who will still party with everyone after, and we have these crazy, fun, awesome times. But I'll outlast everyone. And you know, it's funny if people are like, "What? You're not drinking, or you don't want to do blow right now?" And I'm like, "Oh no, me and drugs go way back." That's what I always tell. It's not like I'm a square. Like I love drugs, and I think that, and I love alcohol. That's just the truth of it. I don't think that they're evil or bad. There's it's more complicated than that. It truly is. And it's not even just like, there's no bad drug. There's just the people who use it. I wouldn't even say that so much. It's really more nuanced and complicated than that. The human's relationship with mind altering substances. So, of course, in a creative field like music, it's going to come with the territory, man. You got to be able to interface with it in some way. But I will say that huge helping factor is that there is lots of other people in this industry who've gone through the same stuff and are sober now. So, Bud recently stopped drinking and stuff, and he seems more happy. And um, it's just it is it's a part of it. They go hand in hand, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So I think I really wouldn't choose it any other way. I'm really happy with how it's worked out.
When my parents had addiction problems, my mother was an alcoholic, and when she came back from her first rehab, I was talking to the counselor who said, "Well, I said, how do you deal with it? And this lady said, well, the aftercare is so important, going to meetings, staying healthy. But she said the most critical part was whatever monsters or demons, if you will, that the person is medicating to sort of suppress and keep down. Once they stop their substance abuse, whether it be drugs, alcohol, whatever, those problems, those issues have not gone away. In fact, they
Right.
might come up even worse. So some people, it gets harder when they get sober at first because they've still got to deal with that same shit from the past that they didn't deal or that they medicated to try to ease the pain of. I don't know if that was the case with you or not.
It's completely true. I mean, what's that old quote? In vino veritas or whatever, and wine the truth. Like I was always told by my immediate family, a lot of them who, were very much partiers, raised by their parents from like the 70s and stuff and the 60s. So I had a lot of good tutelage when it came to like going down that path. And they would always tell me like there'd be some crazy drunk person that just their personality changed when they get that one drink too many and they'd ruin this big party or event. This is all when I was a kid, by the way. And I asked my parents about it and they would say, son, you see that person, it's not that there's some different person when they drink. That person that you just saw that we had to, punch and throw out of this party, that is who they actually are. They can only be like that because their drug of choice, whichever it is, alcohol or coke or downers, whatever, it lets them get to that. And it's not that everybody has this crazy demon in them. Some people just want to do nothing all day. Some people want to stay up for days and days on end. And some people just want to be a little bit more socially capable. But I think that there are certain blocks that get put in place in our life for some folks that just make it hard for us to be this thing that we think we are, we want to be. Sometimes it's not always a good thing to be. And I've found through getting sober, once you deal with that stuff, and there's many ways to do it. It's not always just AA or whatever. There's lots of paths to get to a place where you can really be yourself. It sounds so cliche, but nowadays it feels like I can be myself when I want to. I can turn it on and off. Like, that social, like people nowadays see like, oh, you can be well spoken now and you can be socially capable. That was never my experience ever growing up. I was so repressed and blocked and shameful and spastic and weird. And that's all in there still, but it was my reaction to it that changed. A very quick, easy fix was by getting super drunk or getting super high. That was a quick reaction to those things that seemed to help until it didn't. So nowadays, I have compassion for the people who still choose to do that, or the regular people who can choose to enjoy substances responsibly. They deserve to be able to do that, and I can still let out my weirdness, my freak, uh, in party situations, and not feel embarrassed the next day.
Did your father ever have times of sobriety in his struggle? Because I believe it was heroin, and that's a rough one. But people have spaces where they are not doing the drug, and they have moments of clarity, and then sometimes they slip and fall back. I don't know if that was the case with him or not.
Yeah, there was some ones like that. The story I always tell is that my dad, he was in Sublime at the time and with my mother, but he had to take a break to try to get sober. So he's in a rehab here in California. And so when you're in a rehab, sometimes on the weekend, everywhere's got different rules, but this place let you take a weekend pass and your family or your partner could take you out on the town or whatever to go outside. And so my mom takes him on a weekend pass and they're going to go see a movie, and he's like freshly sober, maybe only like a couple weeks. And they're like, this is the 90s, right? And so they're like, oh, let's just go see whatever's big right now. They go to the local theater. They're like, Pulp Fiction. Oh, yeah, this director is supposed to be really good. And my father's a heroin addict, if you've ever seen Pulp Fiction. So they get in there, they're enjoying the movie. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's this graphic scene of shooting up and the drawback and everything, the paraphernalia. And my mom tells the story like my dad just starts like sweating and screaming. And he just pops up from his chair screaming and like runs out of the theater.
Wow.
He was a very
Wow.
rad, just dramatic dude. And it was probably so intense and gnarly to have to watch that when you're kicking, basically.
Right. Right.
Poor guy. So
That's
yeah, he'd
amazing.
get sober and he'd go to rehab and then he'd hop the walls of the rehab and get out of there. I mean, he was just he was possessed with the spirit of chaos, man. I don't think orderly type things were for him in this cycle. You know, it was a horrible sacrifice. But when I think of everything I have in my life, you know, I've traded all just to have my father back, for one. But for two, you know, it was a sacrifice that he made. That's what I learned through going on this drug journey. And that's why, you know, I wouldn't use my story as a cautionary tale. Like, you know, if you're struggling out there, get sober. And if you feel the call to try drugs and stuff like that, you know, probably don't. They could probably get enlightenment in a million other ways. But I wouldn't change my experiences personally at all, ever, because at the end of that tunnel, I found compassion for my father. I understand that pain and that sickness. It wasn't like he was choosing getting high over being a dad or a family. You know, you can love multiple things can be true at once. Um, and at the same time, he suffered for his art and his family because after his passing, you know, the band took off posthumously after his death. That's really when he never got to experience any of this, the great fruits of his fame and success. You know, he was a guy who probably wouldn't even needed all that. He just loved talking to the people, and he loved that anybody liked the things that he was doing. And so when I bump into people out and about, I always give them the time of day. And when I'm up there on that stage, I try to not treat it like how I did with Coachella. I try to treat it as like this great, amazing gift.
Nice.
That I get to experience this stuff. And every day I'm just grateful for my father and his sacrifices and for his unique experiences.
We're speaking with Jakob Nowell on MMR. Just a few more questions if you have time. But
Yeah, sure.
I'm curious in terms of the catalog when you're up there singing. What have been the most difficult songs, if that's even the case in Sublime? What have been the easiest? What have been the most fun for you to do over the course of a set?
Oh, great questions, man. Yeah, I always have a very thought out opinions on all this stuff because yeah, I always tell people I treat this Sublime thing like it's a gig. Like it's not. I don't know how long we're gonna do it, but for now, it's just an opportunity for me as an entertainer to get to further my career and at the same time get to be like a custodian for the music and to try to honor it as best I can. And so, and my way of doing that was, you know, I'm gonna listen to the whole catalog a million times over and watch all their live sets that I could possibly see and try to, you know, get the essence of what this band really, why it spoke to people back then and try to capture that while, you know, still adding my own spin. But I don't have to ever try to add my own spin. That happens naturally. I'm trying to go as accurate as possible. And if any of my personal voice comes out, that's just sort of accidental, but it probably makes it more authentic anyways, because that's all my dad ever tried to do in his time too. So that being said, the most difficult song for me to portray accurately is Santaria, the big hit.
Really?
I
Wow.
I recently I've been listening a new stage because I'm always trying to improve. I listen to isolated vocals of all their tracks now, and people need to realize too they never performed the self-titled record. My dad had passed, so we don't have evidence of how he would have done it live. It's anybody's guess. I make my own educated guesses. But as far as like Santeria, it's the big hit. It's the big one. So I want to do it good. So I'm bringing to the table a little bit of anxiety already. But I listened to those isolated vocals. I did it again yesterday just because we got a show coming up. And I'm like, you have to see the parts where he uses vibrato and the parts where he's more smoky and the parts where and it's just like, he says things very matter. If I don't practice Santeria, ain't got no crystal ball. Or should you vibrato there? Like, what's the answer? So I try to not like overcomplicate it or get in my head too much about it. But that one live, by the end of the set, my ears are so fatigued. I'm not even sure if I'm singing in the right key. We always play the one at the very end. It's just, it's challenging. The ones that came the most easy for me, honestly, none of them, tell you the truth. I second guess myself a lot. And again, it's just not really in my wheelhouse to, well, no, wait. The ones that came the most easy were the ones that I had the most experience playing, which were the acoustic songs. I played those ever since I was younger, and those are the ones that spoke to me the most as a listener. So Boss DJ, Pool Shark, Acoustic, Saw Red, like these ones I felt like I had a good version of. I don't know if they were like carbon copy, biblically accurate vibe, but those ones came easier. Now, the funnest ones to play are the ones that just feel like they are just this weird frenetic mashup of styles that are constantly changing and you can never pin down their tempo is always changing. The genre is constantly changing, all within like a 2 to 3 minute song. To me, that is a perfect example of what Sublime is at its core. And so those songs for me are Greatest Hits, STP, and especially lately, my number one favorite song to play is All You Need. Because it's like 1 minute they're a punk song, the next minute they're like a rock steady song, the next minute there's like hip hop stuff happening, the next minute it's just pure thrash and yelling. So those are what Sublime is as a band. Like I think the songs like Santaia and What I Got, they became huge hits because those are lightning in a bottle. They stumbled upon that sound. Like who knows how to, continue that or spear that white whale. That's just complete myth. What we can do is look at what made the band so cool at its core and try to further that. So that's what we're doing on this new record, and that's what we're doing on the live sets. When people come out to see us, I hope they feel it.
One of my favorite covers is Scarlet Begonias. The fact that Sublime would take up the music of the Grateful Dead pleased me greatly, and their take on it, because songs grow depending on who's doing it. You take a basic song, and even that band may do that song differently in concert, but then to see other people's interpretation of someone else's song is fascinating. So I love Scarlet Begonias. I don't know if you're doing that.
Yeah, I don't think we've played that one in this lineup of Sublime yet. I know it. I know that one. I've played it before with other projects and stuff. And oh yeah, I love it. We have Miguel to thank for that one, the secret fourth member of Sublime from back in the day, from Pero Bravo and also Long Beach All Stars as well. Yeah, and he was the producer and engineer for 40 Ounce, and he just liked that song. He liked a lot of Grateful Dead, and my dad wasn't really, they were more into punk rock. They were like, what? But he was like, no, trust me, just trust. So it's Miguel you hear harmonizing with my father in
okay.
track. Yeah.
In March of this year, it was announced that you guys will be working on a new record. Travis Barker and John Feldman on board with this. And this will be, when it arrives, the first studio album since, I think, 1996. What can you tell us about it? We've, heard the two songs, Ensenada being the most recent, but where are you at in the process of the album? How's it coming? When do you see it being released?
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to set the record straight, too, for Pete, because it's easy for stuff to get misconstrued with PR and stuff. But we were doing a lot of writing sessions with so many different people. And some of those writing sessions were with Travis and John Feldman, two of our good friends who we absolutely love. If you ask if Bud and Eric and any of the Long Beach Dub guys, they say that Travis might have not joined Blink if he hadn't been opening up with the Aquabats in this tour where Long Beach All Stars on the road with them. They were like, you got to get up there and play. And then the old drummer missed a day, and then Travis went up. And so there are good friends and we love them, but those were just writing sessions and recordings that maybe would have became their own Sublime project or something adjacent. It was very, loose at the time. So, but concurrently though, we were bringing everything to a home base in San Pedro at the studio called the Harbor Martyr Studio. John Joseph is the name of the guy, this 30-year-old dude, not John Joseph from Cro-Mags. But that's where we actually went and jammed out the songs with Bud and Eric, and where me, John, and Zano wrote and combed through all these old unreleased things. So none of the stuff we did with Travis and Feldman will be on this record, though we did record a bunch of stuff. It could be out in the future, or, we love those guys and we love what we did with them. So we'll see what happens in the future. But as far as where we're at right now with what this next album is going to be, we're thinking about calling it Till the Sun Explodes. And it's a little phrase we use a lot. Like, we're worried about this and that when someday the sun's going to blow up. So, it's kind of.
Do you know when the album will come out?
We're thinking next year, probably. I was saying for a while, maybe at the end of this year, but it's probably going to be hard to do that because we want to really push Ensenada for a while and then maybe do one more single. But it's an 18-track record.
Wow.
Complete with like interludes and features from some OG heads like Fletcher and HR from Bad Brains and G Love, and also some new people, newer, like our friend Zach from Fiddlar, another band that's just been, some of these cool local SoCal bands that have been inspired by that era that are sort of the torch carriers of the next wave of alternative music, and now they're in their turn to pass it on to even younger people. So the album is just a big celebration of the life and times of Sublime and our best approximation of all of the stuff that we felt made up the band back in the day. We're not trying to push the sound in any direction. We're just trying to say, hey, the sound is still here. There's still young people out there making music like this that are supported by the old guard. And what a great time to be alive and enjoy this music till the sun explodes.
I like that. We love G Love, by the way. He's from Philly, and we've known him for a long time. Wonderful, wonderful
Oh,
guy.
like my uncle, dude. I love it. It was so much fun working. I can't wait till people hear the song that we got him on. It's really, really cool. It's called Come Correct, and it's just like a fun jam with like samples and stuff. And yeah, the record is it's punk and rocksteady and reggae and ska and thrash and hip hop all mixed together, you know.
Will there be a full scale tour to follow? Like a kind of organized tour? It seems like you're doing one offs now,
Yeah,
basically.
it'll probably stay one offs. You know, I don't want to break the fans' hearts. I would love to get. I love being on the road. It's my favorite thing. That's my favorite part of this, you know, business. I like traveling and sleeping in a hammock on a pirate ship and sailing the. And that's just
That's
that.
what a tour bus is like, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it's my favorite thing to do all these last years. Bus, car, van, or just walking. But no, you know, Bud and Eric, you know, they got families of their own and they're getting up there in age, and it's touring life is pretty hard on them and stuff. So it wouldn't make sense to do it without them or some OG members and stuff. So I think we'll probably do, you know, maybe some more syndicated shows that are like a few back to back regionally, but no true blue like tour out in a month in a bus kind of thing. Though my band Jacob's Castle and a lot of our other bands affiliated with Sunburnt Records will be out there on the road and doing long form tours. And you better believe we're going to play a bunch of these new Sublime songs because we love them and we wrote them.
Well, we got to have you in Philly. Before I let you go, we on the Zoom that people are watching, out your car window is a beautiful shot which captures Southern California and Long Beach. I'm seeing two beautiful palm trees and a smaller one, and we can actually see birds flying by in the shot. It looks like a lovely afternoon in Southern California.
Perfect. It's 70 degrees outside and sunny, and the wind is blowing, and we're right by the beach.
That's so cool. And the other thing, the tattoos, your two front tattoos. Can you tell us what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of mythology because obviously, look at my life and stuff. we know. But Opie from Long Beach All Stars, who was always in the Sublime crew, he was the artist who drew the Sublime Sun. He drew their logo and really all their art, everything that makes Sublime Sublime, he did. So he did this artwork,
Oh,
and
sweet.
he tattooed it on me. We have
Wow.
here. Big fan of all mythology, so I'm gonna get mythological figures from all cultures because that's how I grew up. You know, all paganed out and stuff. But I started with these because I love Japanese stuff, and
Nice. Very nice.
it's a sun and a moon god, the sun and the moon god in Shintoism. This is Amaterasu, the sun goddess, and her brother Tsukiyomi, the moon god, and they used to be really tight, right? They used to be real close, how family can be. But as it happens in family, they had a dispute and a disagreement, and they no longer get along with each other. So that's why you don't see them in the sky at the same place at the same time. They've agreed to have their own domains of the heavens.
Very cool. I
Yeah.
love that. One final question for you, Jacob, and it deals with some beautiful images that are out there. Obviously, you were 11 months old when your dad left this world, but there are some great photos. There's a couple of you as a baby where he's leaning over you with this giant smile on his face, and there's one I just spotted, which is so cool. He's holding you. You're in diapers, and Lou Dog, the famous Dalmatian, is licking the back of your head, and you seem quite content. And he's got, again, this giant smile on his face. And I'm wondering what, you've grown up with these pictures, so, it may not have that same impact. But when you think about or see these pictures in passing, what comes up for you?
It's such a cool feeling. There's one over here. I could drive over there and show you. There's a mural on the wall of that. And actually, I think I will since I just
Oh,
talked. It's
yeah, let's do it.
really right there.
Jacob, for our radio listeners, Jacob is starting his car, and we are driving through Long Beach at the moment.
Yeah, when I see stuff like that, it's just heartwarming, man. It's so cool to see that. Yeah, we're in Long Beach, hometown, this Belmont Shore area, and right by this barber shop, Floyd's barber shop, you can see that there is the picture you're talking about. I don't know if you can see it.
Uh, can't quite see it.
Here, let
Getting a
me
nice. Jacob is getting out of the car for those of you just
get
listening
out
on
of
the
the car.
radio and holding the camera. Oh my God! There against the side. It's not. It's on a wall. The side of a wall
The
has
mural.
got your dad and you as a baby and Lou Dog, the famous Dalmatian. Oh, that's so cool. What is written there, Jacob?
Written,
Long Beach.
it says Long Beach, life is too short, so love the one you got.
Nice. That is amazing.
And I
How
think
cool
that
that you
sums
get
it
to
all
see
up.
that.
It's so cool to see that every day, man. And a quote like that. And it's a beautiful town to be a part of, man. Everyone's smiling and happy and waving. And it's just cool, man. So I always think that when I get too glum or, too serious about all this stuff, I just think, this is the life I got, man. And I do love it. And I'm lucky to be living it every day.
Well, we're very lucky that you've taken this time to share with us. Your story is just a great one, and you've got a great perspective on things. And I think you're destined for great things. You're only 30. Life has just begun in a way, and we
Right.
cannot wait to get this full album. And we would like to, and I want to extend the invitation for Sublime to come to Philadelphia in some form, in some way, because we must see you in this incarnation after this album comes out. And MMR, as I told you before we started talking, has been on the air for 57 years. We were playing the Beatles' White Album when it was new, and we
Wow.
play, new stuff all the time and old stuff. We're not any one genre of music because music isn't that way, right?
I agree.
Music contains older stuff, newer stuff, different textures, different sounds. It's not
Oh, yeah.
classic rock or hardcore or punk or, acoustic or whatever. It's music. And
It's me.
musicians know that because they don't define or, format things into different categories. It's all a piece of the pie. It's all music. And there's a beauty to that musicians get, but radio programmers don't always get. But that's what makes our station special. We've had a long friendship with our listeners and relationships. Some who have been with us since we went on the air in 1968. Some who just started, younger and older. So we value those friendships and those connections with our audience, but with bands that we've been playing for a long time. We've never had the pleasure of meeting you, but we do extend this invitation and to have you come and visit us in Philly as soon as you can.
Man, we would absolutely love to do that. I love Philly. We play there all the time. A bunch of different projects I've been through there. I think with Jacob's Castle and Sunburnt Records on Burnt Tour, we just played near Philly in Bensalem at the
Oh,
park.
cool. Oh, yeah, yeah. Parks Casino, yeah.
Yeah, and it's true everything you say, man. This is why it's what makes it worth doing, And it is this one big fluid thing that's always changing, and it's just it takes people. We wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the people, and we're all a part of this thing right now. So thank you to anybody out there who's been touched by the music of Sublime, and just want to let you know that it's a new era. It's not dead, and it's more exciting than I think it's ever been.
That's so great. Thank you for spending time with us on MMR. A great conversation. I can't thank you enough, and we look forward to seeing you soon, and good luck with the record.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Pierre, you rock. Thank you,
Thanks.
MMR. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see you in Philly.